All right, welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
And today we're going to ask ourselves a question. Cody, when I was in Argentina, the little kids would come up to you and they'd say, you got wiki wiki, tenés wiki wiki, and they make this little sign with their hands. That means you're scared or you have fear, right? Mm-hmm. Because in Spanish, you say tenés miedo, which means you have fear instead of saying you're scared. So we can say that, or ask the question, why Bernie Sanders people fear Andrew Yang, because we've been seeing some chatter online that makes us think, do they fear him? And if they do, why should they? Or why do they? I believe is the question. So we got to ask ourselves, does the Bernie family have wiki wiki, you know what I'm saying, of Andrew Yang?
Well, okay, so
that was a pretty awesome cultural reference.
It was too cultured for me. It's right off my head. I'm like, I barely speak English, man. So anyway, the first thing that kind of got me thinking about this, though, a couple days ago, article I posted in Politico. All over the link below. I recommend you to read through it if you haven't already. Very interesting read. It's called "Flush with Cash. Yang Wrestles with Where to Spend It." A lot of this article is discussing the idea of now that Yang's got all this money, there's a lot of internal. Here we go. Best way to put it. He still can't get quite accustomed to a surprising fundraising haul. Yang collected $16.5 million in the fourth quarter, or how to allocate it in the run-up to Iowa and New Hampshire. They go on to mention, here we go, the reality is his newfound campaign riches are creating internal tension about whether to beef up the Iowa operation or bet it all in New Hampshire. Interesting article. But getting into Bernie, in this article, I happen to notice there's just this kind of one-off paragraph where they mentioned, said right here, it says, Yang is also becoming a discussion point inside Sanders' local headquarters.
Ooh, I believe he's living in their head rent-free. This is sports psychology, yes. Baby.
I believe the local here they're referencing is New Hampshire. I believe, just reading into this, it could be Iowa as well. They say, according to those close to his campaign, they see him as a threat, albeit small, in a primary that could be decided by a sliver of votes. Now, again, they don't have massive amount of quotes. They kind of move on after that in this article, but just got me thinking, and I was noticing that. And, there's an article posted here. I want to pull it up really quickly. I want to say October. There we go. It took me a while. Again, in Politico, so maybe it's a Politico thing. They read an article called The Unexpected Threat Emerging Against Bernie. Andrew Yang. Again, this article's from a few months now. It's not really new news.
Unexpected threats are the worst, man.
But there's some good stuff.
¿Por qué tiene Bernie Sanders miedo de Andrew Yang?
Oh God, so there is some interesting
stuff. ¿Por qué lo
tiene? So here we go. This is the big thing right here. I think this is the main reason why. It says the Sanders-Yang overlap underscores another factor in the Democratic primary. While pundits frequently opine on moderate and progressive, there's also an anti-establishment lane in which Yang, Sanders, Warren, Tulsi, and Marianne Williamson are jockeying for support. Warren's like the spy from the establishment who comes in like, oh, vote for me. I'm the anti-establishment candidate. It's like, no, you're literally them. Anyway, so I thought that was interesting. And I think that is probably the best way to break it down. Yes, Bernie's going to out progressive Yang. He's not going to out anti-establishment Yang because they're both kind of there. Bernie's got more cred.
He's also not going to out-math Yang. He's not going to out-talk him. Like in a one-on-one debate, when you just see how Andrew Yang very cordially and kindly dismantled the federal jobs guarantee in comparison to the freedom dividend with plain old math and stats, that speaks to millennial voters in a much deeper way than just the millionaires and the billionaires are your problem in life.
Well, okay, I got just two more things I want to get through because we'll get to the interesting part of this. So, and this is another quote right here from Ray Buckley, chairman of the New Hampshire Democratic Party. He says, there's an intensity among the supporters of Andrew Yang that is very reminiscent of the Bernie supporters of 2016. They're very passionate about their candidate and they're very active online, both on Twitter and Facebook, and expressing their strong support. That's the key thing I want to get into here. Because I think that those are the two things. One, anti-establishment bend. Two, the idea of that fervent, like the Yang gang is basically what Bernie fans were as far as that energy, that support, that just, that kind of snowballing momentum, right? However, something else came across. Now, I first noticed this on Twitter yesterday. Someone at Quantum Reason tweeted saying that Bernie Sanders' massive subreddit is actively erasing any mention of Yang. They're permabanning anyone who brings up Yang's name, even in innocent mentions. Look at this, and what do you notice?
Dude, that's crazy. This is like when they did that to Alex Jones, where like you couldn't
spell him.
You couldn't reference him on Facebook unless it was negative, or else they ban you.
So I had a bunch of people sending me or posting screenshots like this of them getting banned from R. Sanders for president. Like, you've been permanently banned from R. Sanders for president. This person said that that they just commented Yang at 10% and this happened. I think I have another one here, another person here, same thing. Now, I don't have any verification of what they actually posted. However,
well, is that an algorithmic ban or a person ban? That's just banning?
It's not algorithmic. I mean, it could be. I do not believe.
Well, also, doesn't that make sense that the Sanders people would just ban Yang gangers because they're not helping?
No, I mean, like I said, it's not. I'm not saying it's bad for them. I'm not saying how dare they, because yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about this with the daily cost thing, where it's like, look, if they want to say we're a Warren board, and if you guys don't want Warren, get out of here, don't read them or take them serious anymore. But they're kind of allowed to do. But here's what was interesting to me. Scott Santens.
Oh, so it's not an official. It's just a Reddit. Yeah, duh. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was thinking it was.
Most of these are boards that are self-moderated. But Scott Santens, friend of the show, Scott Santens, he said that he was also banned for this post right here. And this is really interesting. So I guess, hold on. Before I read Scott's post to you guys, I want to show you guys the Reddit post, because this is what's fascinating. So this is the actual Reddit post. The thread is locked, so you can't post comments on it anymore in the Bernie subreddit. But this is the actual post, and check this out. So it says New Mexico primary poll. Emerson 3-6 January. Sanders at 28%. Biden at 27%. Warren at 8%. Buttigieg at 7%. Bloomberg at 3%. And you might notice something there. Actually, if you didn't watch our last video, we actually just talked about this poll in our last video. One of the very interesting things about this poll, you wouldn't have known it by reading the Bernie Sanders board here, is that Andrew Yang's actually at 10% in that poll in third place. For some reason, it was completely omitted from the actual Reddit post, which is a little weird. And a bunch of people went in the comments to read it. Now, that's the only reason I want to bring that up is I want to get back now to what our friend Scott Santens said. So read this. This is Scott said this is all he posted, and he was banned from the board. I'm trying to see if I can size it a little bit better for you guys, because it's kind of stretching to the edges there. But he says, I don't understand why you would exclude Yang's 10%, just like MSNBC has repeatedly excluded Bernie from various graphics that should have included him. I understand if you don't like a candidate, but a poll result's a poll result. Reporting the results of a poll shouldn't exclude someone, especially when they came in third. By wrongfully excluding someone so blatantly, you're no better than the MSM, wrongfully excluding Bernie every time they do it. And please don't delete this tweet. I'm not trolling, and I'm posting in good faith as a former Bernie supporter. I simply don't think any candidate should be censored from polling results. And according to Scott Santens, he was then banned and removed from the board or from the subreddit for that post. So there definitely was a sense of, I mean, for those of you people who aren't familiar with Reddit, it's, maybe if you're more familiar with YouTube.
It's the last reference of the Wild Wild West.
No, once you've locked a thread, it's like when you open up a YouTube video and like you see something in the video and you want to comment on it and you scroll down and it's like comments are locked on this video. It's like, oh no, something bad happened here. Like it's just kind of, it's like that when you walk in late and see it, it's like, oh no, what happened? And it appears, because again, it's really, it is like there's no other explanation I can think for this, for them not physically just, no, Yang cannot be mentioned. Yang did good in this poll. We can't bring it up. We can't say it because they're blocked from here. And if you go through, you'll notice, let's see if I can do the control F here. If you control F Yang on this page, let's see if I'm on the right page. There's one result, and it's somebody whose name is Andrew Yang for president, and all they said was nice. It's the only result for Yang in this thread. Now, again, that's not that crazy considering it's a Bernie Sanders thread, but when the fact that multiple people here are posting that they've been banned for, I think this is a funny one. Someone posted this exchange. They said, we can't say or else we'll be banned. And also the hypocrisy every time we, so someone said, I would, but I'm afraid to get perma-banned for uttering the name of the Asian man who must not be named. Because, yeah, I mean, it is. And the reason why I think this is so upsetting, I think, a little bit to people in the Yang Gang, and as Scott Santens brought up, this is an article I want to read you guys from The Hill. It's from the 6th of December of last year. I mean, this is from, what, a month ago?
Yeah.
Titled, Bernie Sanders campaign official. The Bernie blackout is real.
Yeah, you'd think they'd
Nina
feel
Turner,
it, you know?
Nina Turner, a top 2020 campaign official, Bernie Sanders, on Thursday doubled down on claims that the media is continuing to ignore the Vermont senator even as he remains a top contender. The Bernie blackout is real, she said. It's not a figment of our imagination. I don't want to see any candidate blacked out. Well, Subreddit disagrees with you, but of course the subreddit is not the campaign. Yeah. But certainly not a candidate that is polling the top 1 or 2, and certainly is in the top 3 of candidates that can get a Democratic nomination. It is wrong, and the system is rigged. It's just so weird to me that, like, the burners are literally experiencing this, but for whatever reason, there seems to be I don't know if animosity is the word, but I think there is this understanding on both sides, right?
Hypocrisy is the word, Cody.
I think it's less hypocrisy, and it's more both sides understand that. As the guy who works for the Democratic Party in New Hampshire pointed out, like, the Yang Gang is what Bernie had behind him in 2016. That style of grassroots, online, fervent political people. And I think there is, and I think we're all guilty of this. I don't like getting into armchair psychologists, but I could see a reality where a Bernie Sanders supporter would feel, I don't know if threatens the word, but they'd feel this like, hey, like that's our, that's our thing. We do that. That's how we campaign for Bernie. No one else is entitled to that kind of fan base. No one else is entitled to that kind of support. I kind of get that sense of it. Because, dude, we were joking before, this is like that picture of Joseph Stalin where like he's photoshopping out people as he's having them taken out. Like they just basically act like this Yang guy doesn't exist. Yeah. And again, this is not, as far as I know, it's not moderated by anyone officially tied to the campaign. It's just Bernie Sanders supporters on Reddit. So I don't want to get into like the actual Bernie 2020 campaign attacking them because I don't think they're in this fight so much. But the burners online and the Yang gang online have been butting heads for a while, and stuff like this is what it looks like. I'm sure I can find examples in Yang subreddits. It's probably not like this because the Yang gang is the one on the hunt, so they're not as afraid as Bernie is. I think Bernie realizes he's the hunted, and Andrew Yang is the hunter, right?
Yeah.
But sorry, I went a bit long explaining it all. I just want to make sure we got through all the stuff here because this fascinated me. It really fascinated me.
Okay, so tell me, Cody, what do you sense? Do you think that the burners are kind of fearful of Yang or no?
Well, like I said, I think it's just this idea of like there's this kind of like it would be like I would think. How's a good way of explaining it?
I mean, they're not going to fear Biden. He'd mop the floor with Biden.
It's
with negative attacks if there was a chance.
Yeah. Well, all I want to say, I think it's less this idea of like Bernie doesn't think he can beat Andrew Yang, and I think it's just more this idea of like. Bernie was the outsider anti-establishment candidate in 2016.
He's stealing our thunder, is what you think.
Like okay. In the sense of like worthy. Because also if you view yourself as fighting on behalf of the people for the anti-establishment, like get rid of these people, they're not good. Would you not look at people supporting a candidate that's not your own and say, hey, you guys aren't actually, do you understand? Like, I'm just trying to empathize here. I can see why. I think childish things like refusing to mention a candidate's name and then purging all mentions off your subreddit, I think that's bad. But I don't think it's inhuman for somebody to say, hey, look, that we're supposed to be that guy. There's not supposed to be another candidate like this. We're supposed to be that candidate. So why are you supporting him? He's like the false god, right? So I think it's more like that, right? Because you know what I think the most animosity comes from Bernie Sanders supporters or Andrew Yang supporters is realistically, is they don't support Bernie. Like, I think if Andrew Yang supporters that Bernie Sanders supporters have problems with supported Bernie Sanders, they would no longer have problems with them. Like most things in life, there's probably like one or two things we're actually disagreeing on here, and everything else we're probably in agreement on. I think it'd be like that. It was just a story that really, and again, it's basically gossip. You could say for the most part, it's just people writing stuff on Twitter. But I mean, I did do some research on my own, I did some digging, and I found there's a little bit of there's a there. There's something going on here.
Yeah, I was about to say I've definitely sensed also when we go to these Andrew Yang rallies, they're chock full. At least a fourth of the volunteers are ex-burners. And Padgett asked this question when we went to the first Andrew Yang rally in Santa Monica. I've heard it asked in all the forums. They say, is it even worth trying to go after the burners? Because so many of them are just set in their ways and they're sold on Bernie. Like how much is it worth interacting with them versus trying to just go get new constituents, register new people to vote, talking to friends and family, doing the phone baking, so on and so forth. So you could tell that definitely built in, Bernie Sanders lost a lot of support when Andrew Yang decided to run.
Yeah, I mean, here,
a lot of progressive kids went over there, and so that's always going to cause some. Some animosity there, because like, hey, your candidacy is costing our candidacy. Okay, so I think there's always going to be that built-in animosity. But then it's like, well, crap, not only did his candidacy cost our candidacy, but now his candidacy has a better idea that polls higher with people. We definitely don't like that. So to me, really, and gosh, man, you remember that video of that one girl that was a Bernie Sanders supporter that after hearing Andrew Yang took off her Bernie button and said, I think I'm an Andrew Yang person now. I mean, I'm sure everybody's got, that video for every campaign. But at the end of the day, these are all compelling evidences that are microcosms representing the macrocosm that will be the later game of the primaries, assuming the DNC doesn't do something completely corrupt to Andrew Yang. So,
or more stuff completely corrupt to Andrew Yang.
Yeah, or more stuff completely corrupt to Andrew
Yang. You can see here really quickly.
And they fear a fair fight. I really think they fear a fair fight.
We can't see the comments, but
Communists never want to fight capitalists, for they know people prefer capitalism.
Well,
maybe. I just boiled that down to a boomer soundbite, dog.
Well, here's the thing I just want to show you guys, because I wish I could go back in time and look at the tweets there, but look at this. So the allegations that stuff was being purged from the Bernie Sanders subreddit was about 15 hours ago. If I go back over to the Bernie Sanders subreddit, the thread, there's a bunch of content removed by moderator from about 15 hours ago. So yeah, there was something going on there. Because I don't want to be unfair and just say I read a tweet once, so the Bernie Sanders subreddit is doing this thing. Yeah. I can't say 1,000% for proof, but like I said, I have no reason to think that people posting screenshots of being banned from the subreddit are lying. I believe Scott Santens. I've spoken with him. We've spoken with him, on our show personally. I see him on Reddit. He's a verified blue check Twitter, so you gotta trust him. But no, in all seriousness, I for the more or less don't think he'd lie about this.
I literally think,
especially as a former Bernie supporter himself, I don't know why he would make that up. So I think this is going on.
This is the last thing I will say before we end this video. In reference to your blue checkmark comment, it's hilarious, but Thomas Friedman actually wrote a book in which there was a half a chapter dedicated to this concept that it's actually harder to get a job at Apple. Apple receives more resumes and job applications than Harvard does. They take a lower percentage of applicants than Harvard does. And he says it's actually more, he said something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, like, it's almost more impressive for me to hire somebody that was an Apple employee than made it into Harvard, And getting that Twitter blue check mark, man, they come for you. You don't come for them, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, it's you almost have to wonder, is that like a resume thing now? Just be able to say, like, I got my blue check mark.
No, very fun.
Getting monetized and getting 1 million views on YouTube is very difficult. You almost wonder, in this new economy, if I were hiring, would I prefer a 4-year degree in communications or maybe just somebody that built a YouTube channel that got 5 million views? Well, one actually I think might be harder than the other.
No, that is how it works. There's a lot of people who do. There's a lot of people that have popular, a lot of people you see like on like hosting these all these different web series, live shows, and a lot of them are bloggers and Instagrammers. That's where a lot of people start. It's kind of just weird. Like, I think because and we're way off on the side. Let's wrap it up there. Because the collegiate system got so bloated and degrees flooded the job market, real world success has kind of reemerged as, like, actual proof of success doing a thing has reemerged as a very, very attractive thing on a resume. Because there was a time, maybe 70 years ago, where going to Harvard was way more impressive than working at the top firm anywhere because it really meant something.
Yeah.
It's just, they realized the more students, the more money. So, way off topic here. Again, just putting this in the bow on it. Interesting to see how, with both Yang and Bernie seeming to be fighting uphill battles against the media, the Bernie crew does seem to be a little bit, I don't know if threatened is the word, but it does kind of feel like you're not supposed to be here. That's the kind of vibe I get. You guys aren't supposed to be here.
It's our turn. We're the artists that sing angsty emo songs in coffee houses, not you.
But the one thing I'll give him, just to be fair here, I will say Bernie got screwed so hard in 2016. I can see why some people are like, dug in. I don't care. Bernie for bust.
Yeah, but then he turned around and endorsed the system that.
Boy,
dude, I lost so much respect for him when he endorsed.
I think that might be also why I don't like the Yang Gang. Because guess what? The people who lost respect for Bernie when he bowed down to the DNC, a lot of them support Andrew Yang. Not all, but a lot. I'm just telling you, like,
not only did he adopt the language of his oppressors, but he endorsed the language of his oppressors.
He flew around the country doing stump speeches for Hillary Clinton.
He was absorbed, man.
Yeah, he played the game. Unfortunately, that's what you get.
So let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe. This is Problem Solver Politics.